It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
And so you're probably thinking, okay, well, you just said that they do allocation for me, meaning they broadly diversify my assets, but they also do my allocation over time. They have these glide paths. That must mean that these things must be pretty expensive, right? They must charge a premium in order to do that. And that's not necessarily true. However, there's a caveat. Not all target retirement funds are created equal. Some providers, some institutions have better solutions than others. We thought this was really interesting. Daniel went and pulled this information from us. If you go look at the American Century 2045 Fund, it is aiming to do exactly what we've talked about. You'll need to access the funds in 2045. The internal operating expenses, the money to keep the lights on, run the fund, that sort of thing, are about 1.37%. That's pretty expensive for a single mutual fund. But if you look at the Vanguard 2045, should be doing roughly the exact same thing, expense ratio of only 0.08%.
Whenever we talk about target retirement funds, one of the first blows that we'll take from people who are trying to poke holes when we share information is that they will pull up an expensive target retirement fund and say, look, those things are too expensive. Don't waste your money. It's not worth it. And I'm always like, look, this is no different than like with Roth IRAs and other things. You are the field general of where every dollar in your army of dollar bills goes. Yes, of course, this would be a problem if you're choosing to put your money to work in very expensive things. But if you're proactive, if you're watching the Money Guy Show or listening to the Money Guy Show and we're educating you to where you're focusing on how much can I save and when do I need it, we like index target retirement funds. So it's not uncommon at all to find out that we're talking about the three providers that are basically buying index funds. I mean, you can see it, a 0.08% cost compared to a 1.37%. I mean, that we are looking at a 15-fold difference.
It's a big difference.
That goes into your back pocket. That goes into your long-term performance. So pay attention to the where. And then once you even pay attention to the where you're going to invest your money, pay attention to which version of the target retirement fund you're talking about, because we know both Fidelity and Charles Schwab, leaders in target retirement fund space, they offer two different varieties. One is an active management version. One is an index version. Pay attention because the Fidelity active version costs 75 basis points or 0.75% per year, whereas the index version is 0.12%. At Charles Schwab, the active version is 0.68% annual expenses versus their index variety is 0.08, because not only does where matter, but what you're buying at that where, pay attention to those details and you can save yourself a lot of expenses. And I think you'll be pleased with the results.
And again, what we like about these funds is that they allow you to focus on what you can control and what you do know and understand presently, which is your savings rate. If you can choose a low cost and index version of one of these target retirement funds, you've taken care of diversification, you've taken care of allocation over time, and you've taken care of fees and expenses. So again, you can focus on putting your money to work, because we've said this over and over, and I think this is maybe the first time we've actually done an illustration on this. In the early stages of building your army of dollar bills, your savings rate is exponentially more important than your rate of return. And we say that ad nauseum. We say it over and over again, but people still ping us. Oh yeah, well you guys only use this percent. What if you make this percent? What if you make this percent? So we said, all right, let's just go and put this in a case study to show you just how important savings rate can be. Let's assume that you have two investors. We're going to have Grace and we're going to have AJ. Yeah. And let's assume that they are coming out of school or they're starting their jobs and they're both going to make $50,000 a year. Okay. Grace decides that she wants to be a really prolific saver starting out. She wants to start saving 12% per year for retirement. AJ says, I'm going to save and invest 10%. So she has a higher savings rate. But let's say Grace says, you know what, I'm just going to go buy a target retirement index fund, fill in the blank, and I'm going to earn 8%. Right, I'm going to earn 8%. And let's say that AJ says, you know what, I can go out and beat the market. I'm going to do a little bit better. I'm going to try to be active and I'm going to be successful in that. I'm actually going to make a 10% rate of return over the next 5 years. which one of them ends up with more money? Grace, who had a better savings rate, or AJ, who had a better rate of return?
Well, I mean, come on, we're financial mutants. We know how valuable that savings and that investing rate is, especially when you're first starting out. Let's go ahead and share the rest with the audience, though.
After 5 years, Grace will actually have a total account value of almost $37,000, $36,738. AJ's account, even though he had a better rate of return, even though every year for 5 years he was outperforming her by 2%, his account was only worth $32,266. So the one thing that we try to drill into the minds of young people when they're first starting their career, or maybe you're someone who's not starting your career, maybe you're in your 30s or 40s, and you're really focused on what can I be doing to improve my overall financial circumstance, we take the stance that your savings rate, especially in the beginning, is exponentially more valuable than your rate of return.
So everybody knows we're huge advocates and we love seeing the magic of compounding growth. But there is a side of this that I think a lot of people don't realize, and we've tried to do illustrations on this, and that's for a whole nother show. We've done it on multiple shows. That first 10 years of investing, you're going to see the lion's share of your money is still what you put in.
That's right.
The exponential growth that comes from compounding is in years 20, years 25, years 30 and beyond. I mean, you've got to have the money working for you for years. So that's why we're trying to make sure we focus on that first quadrant of your wealth building, the beginning years where you are focusing on the savings rate, and it's more of the distractions, all the behavioral stuff that we talked about that's messing up the discipline. That's why we want you to focus on quit sweating the small stuff of, which stocks to buy, which cryptos. Don't let all those weird things. Focus on saving. How can I get more and my money working for me so that in years 20 and 30 and beyond, it's doing better. And that leads to, hey, we get it. Target retirement funds, it's like most things. If there's all this good, there must be a catch to it.
Sure.
And of course there is. And look, we are wealth managers, fee-only financial fiduciary advisors, and we work with clients all across the country. If these things were perfect, we probably wouldn't need to exist anymore. So, I mean, that's why I love that we can give the nuanced details of why you should focus on this while you're young, but then also tell you as you get older and you have more successes financially, there will come a graduation point where you want to move beyond what index and target retirement funds can do for you.